So what would a war with Iran actually look like? Imagine this. You wake up one morning, it's February 28, 2026, and the news is just breaking that the US and Israel have launched massive airstrikes all across Iran. It sounds like science fiction, but according to some analyses, it's a very real possibility. So in this explainer, we're going to break it all down. How a war like this could even start, what the immediate fallout would be for the entire world, and who might actually come out on top.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll look at how this war would kick off, the first explosive hours. Then we're going to rewind a bit and see what led up to this moment. After that, we'll dive into the global shockwaves, because this affects everyone. Then we'll ask the big question, who's winning? And finally, we'll look at what might come next. Okay, let's set the scene. This isn't a slow burn. The conflict, in this scenario, starts suddenly and with absolutely overwhelming force. That first day would be just incredibly intense. It all kicks off around 9:45 a.m. local time. The US and Israel launch coordinated airstrikes. The American side is codenamed Epic Fury and Israel's is Roaring Lion. But the real bombshell news of the morning, a targeted strike hits the compound of Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei, killing him. And by the afternoon, Iran, reeling, would fire back, launching hundreds of drones and missiles at American bases and allies in the region.
So, how would you even justify an attack like this? Well, from the Israeli perspective, it would be framed as a matter of survival. The prime minister would likely come out and say the goal was to remove an existential threat, and by that they mean Iran's nuclear program and its powerful missiles.
Now, the United States would probably frame its role a little differently. A statement like this one from President Trump suggests the American goal isn't just about military targets. It's about creating an opening, a chance for the Iranian people themselves to rise up and change their own government from the inside. But a war like this doesn't just happen out of the blue. You don't get to a day like February 28th without years of things going wrong. To really get it, we need to look at how tensions had been escalating for a long time.
You can see the dominoes starting to fall here. Between 2023 and 2025, the crisis in the Middle East just gets deeper. Then in June 2025, there's a short, sharp conflict, a 12-day war, where Iran's nuclear sites get hit. A few months later, in January 2026, huge protests break out inside Iran, but they're crushed. And then the final straws. Last-ditch peace talks fail, and the US begins moving an enormous amount of military firepower into the region. At that point, the writing is pretty much on the wall.
The second this conflict starts, the effects would be felt everywhere. And I mean everywhere. This is a perfect and terrifying example of how connected our world really is. The first massive shockwave, it's going to hit your wallet. Iran would almost certainly retaliate by shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. Now, why does that matter? Get this. 20%, 1/5 of the entire world's oil supply passes through that one tiny choke point. If you shut that down, the price of gas everywhere skyrockets overnight. And it's not just oil. The next huge shock would be to global travel. The war would throw international flights into absolute, unprecedented chaos.
Just try to picture it. Iranian missiles damage major international airports like Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Huge swaths of airspace over the region are completely closed off. And for the first time ever, the three biggest travel hubs in the Gulf, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Doha, all shut down at the same time. We're talking thousands of canceled flights and tens of thousands of people stranded all over the world. A total mess.
So, while the world is scrambling to deal with all this chaos, the crucial question is, on the actual battlefield, who's winning? Let's take a hard look at the military situation after about a week of fighting. The numbers here are just staggering. Before the war, Iran had more than 3,000 ballistic missile launchers. After 1 week, they're down to about 100. Its entire navy of major ships, gone, sunk or disabled. Its air defenses, which once covered the whole country, are basically silenced, and its command structure has gone from centralized to completely fragmented. So, the main takeaway is that this initial attack would be devastatingly effective. It's not just about breaking equipment, it's about completely shattering Iran's ability to fight an organized conventional war. It's a knockout punch in the first round. And this strategy, it has a name. It's called a decapitation strike, and it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. The idea isn't just to beat the army. The goal is to take out the leadership, the head of the government, to create so much chaos that the enemy can't even coordinate a defense.
And you can see just how successful this decapitation strike would be. We're not talking about minor officials. The strikes would take out the supreme leader himself, along with the defense minister,
the chief of staff, the powerful commander of the Revolutionary Guard, and at least 49 other senior leaders. It's a crippling blow to the entire regime.
Okay, so after an opening attack that's that devastating, where do things go from here? What's the most likely endgame?
Now, you might be thinking the next step is a full-scale ground invasion and a long, drawn-out occupation. But interestingly, that's not what most experts think would happen. The most probable outcome, they believe, is some kind of negotiated settlement to stop the fighting.
And this chart really paints a clear picture. Analysts are giving it a 70 to 80% chance that this all ends in a ceasefire and some sort of containment deal rather than blowing up into an even bigger war.
So what would that deal actually look like? Well, some are calling it a Venezuela scenario. Basically, Iran gives up a lot. It has to agree to limits on its missile program, accept a new nuclear deal, and stop funding armed groups in other countries. And what does Iran get in return? It gets some relief from crippling economic sanctions, and the current regime, or what's left of it, gets to survive. It's left standing, but it's much, much weaker.
So in the end, the US and Israel would feel like they've achieved their main goal. They've cut the head off the snake. But as the fighting dies down, it leaves everyone with one massive, lingering question that no one can answer for sure. What will the rest of the body do next? The future is now in the hands of a fractured government, its regional allies, and the Iranian people themselves. And the whole world will be watching.